Hey, FlimsyLunchTray here, and welcome to Warships for our what should have been a Saturday upgrade commander build video here in Utrecht, but I had some software problems, so here it is finally on Monday. So we're going to be doing an upgrade commander build video here on the Tier 10 Dutch light cruiser Utrecht. So let's just dive right into it. So first, what kind of cruiser is Utrecht? Well, yes, she's a light cruiser, but she's really a mid-range cruiser. You've got brawling cruisers, you've got long-range cruisers, but Utrecht is really the mid-range cruiser. I usually say mid-range, for example, is 12 to 15. An argument could be made for Utrecht, we could say 10 to 14. Her concealment is 9.8, and then your airstrike is 14 kilometers. So that means you're really trying to play just outside of your concealment, and then also within airstrike range. But there will be at certain times where you will be playing a little bit more at range with these 1228mm guns, where the max stock range is 17 kilometers, and to me that's just been fine to play with. Because ideally you want to be playing around islands and smoke when possible, so you can get your airstrikes off. So that's how I approach in terms of the positioning with this ship. With the armor layout, you have a lot of vulnerabilities. So you have, of course, your 13mm superstructure, but you're coated in 16mm plating on the bow, stern, and some of the side plating here, which does drop down to 50 and then turns into this 90. We have some more 50 here, then there's this little oddball 60mm patch back here, but the 90 armor belt extends further back than it does bow on. Forward towards the bow. So it really helps you to kind of think that playing more at an angle, kind of like this, is a bit better way to approach playing Utrecht in this kiting position realistically. Because you are a light cruiser, you're a relatively small light cruiser, you're not massively big, and you need to use what you can, but ideally, you really want to avoid taking shots from battleships, and it's going to be hard for you to even try to bait a battleship or cruiser into hitting this 50-90mm belt plating because it's so small. So just do keep that in mind. One of the big weaknesses with the ship, again, it's a light cruiser, it should have this weakness, is it has a really long and massive citadel. So even if you're kiting away like this, a shell comes right through the deck, it's going to sink most likely right into your citadel if it's of a battleship or a battle cruiser armor, so to speak. So you have in the middle of the ship, the citadel rises up. So let's say you're shooting at Utrecht, you want to be shooting between the conning tower and where the rear flag is, or rear part of the superstructure. Otherwise, it's just above a waterline citadel. It's also possible, you have this barbette armor. It's 100mm, so that's ironically that's the strongest part of the ship, is that right there. And then your gun mount armor is only 20mm all around. So it's very easy for these main battery guns to be incapacitated, so you do want to build into them to the extent that even a destroyer caliber can incapacitate your main battery. So we'll get into that a bit more here. So let's first walk through the modules. So module-wise, you have, again, 12 128mm guns. They're really good. I'll talk about it more in the armament section. 4-second reload time, 180 turn time of 10.6 seconds, maximum HE shell damage by 1,450, which we can get up even higher with our commander, and maximum AP shell damage 3,100. Hit point wise, if you have survivability expert, you're 42,200. With Charlie Kilo, 44,350. Gunfire control system range, 17 kilometers. I'll talk about range on the 6th slot in the upgrades. And then propulsion is 35 knots. We can use Sierra Mike to get up to 36.8. And with an 8% engine boost, we can get closer to 40 knots. So it's not like a fast light cruiser where maybe you have like a plus 15% or 20% engine boost. It's just a modest 8% engine boost is what you have here. In terms of the upgrades, the first slot, main armaments mod 1, this is reducing the risk of your main battery becoming incapacitated by negative 20%. Main battery survivability plus 50%, and main battery repair time negative 20%. So this ship is really all about, in terms of her armament, the 1228mm guns and the airstrikes. So you do want to try to keep the guns in action as much as possible, that you get 3 turrets on the front and 3 on the bow, or stern, excuse me. You could talk about going more like this AA build route here, but I don't really recommend it here on Utrecht. I think it's better to consider going for the main armaments, because you won't always have AA ships in the game present. So that would be my recommendation there. The second slot, if you only have credits, let's say you don't have enough coal to get a special upgrade, I would say the engine room protection. This reduces the risk of your steering and engine gears becoming incapacitated by -20% and reduces the repair time, so you can back faster by 20%. I don't really understand why Wargaming has the damage control system mod 1 recommended here. I do see that they do recommend this on, like, let's say a heavy cruiser or battle cruiser, I can understand. But on a light cruiser, your armor scheme on your stern is so weak that it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when will your engine and steering gears become incapacitated. So in terms of the standard upgrades, you want engine protection. Engine boost mod 1 extends our consumable action time by plus 20%. So our engine boost goes from being 120 seconds to 156 seconds. Now where you find that at, you can click right on it in the upgrade slot. Otherwise we can go right in here into the armory. And we'll go to customizations, and then we'll go to upgrades. It's right here, 17,000 coal with a 25% coupon. Here, you get one once a month. It's 12,750 coal. So I do always recommend trying to pick up the upgrades with the coupon versus spending full price if you can help it at all. It just makes the economy better for you in the game long term. Third slot, I'll put it on the right side of the screen here. Your aiming systems mod 1. This reduces the maximum main battery shell dispersion by 7%. So that means we have tighter vertical and tighter horizontal shell dispersions here in the game, which means that these guns are really good because they have a flatter shell arc, and they have a high shell velocity speed of 960 meters a second. So it doesn't take very long for your shells to reach target, and it makes it more effective to shoot destroyers in the game as well when you do see them. So you definitely should be doing that. And you have this 13th overall in terms of high explosive damage per minute, and you have the 6th best damage per minute in terms of armor piercing damage per minute in the game of all tier 10 cruisers. So just honing that in to be even better is great. You could talk about main battery mod 2, just improving your main battery traverse speed, but I actually take grease the gears on the commander, so I don't worry about it here. Because again, certain things here are making it 10.6 seconds because we also have a nerf on the 6th slot, and I'll talk about that as well. Being the Dutch cruiser with the high explosive airstrikes, you should be looking to take the airstrike mod 1. Your stock reload time on the airstrikes is 45 seconds. Between the commander and that upgrade I just showed you, airstrike mod 1, you drop down to 30.6 seconds. And you can get that even lower. And I'll talk about that with the commander and whatnot. So it's really good because you're trying to spam fires as much as possible. You wouldn't take, like, otherwise I would be like, you take propulsion mod 1, but then at that point I'd be like, just play Hindenburg, play Cerberus, play Colbert, like play those type of boats. This is about the high explosive airstrikes and getting your main battery off on enemy ships. 5th slot, concealment, because concealment is already really good here on Utrecht. So you should be considering to take this to give us that ultimate 9.8 concealment, as well as concealment on the commander, and also the plus 5% on dispersion of shells fired by enemies attacking your ship. And a negative 10% detectability by air. So your AA range is 6 kilometers, and your detectability by air is 6 kilometers. So those pair together quite nicely. The 6th slot, you have 3 options here. I'll talk about each of them. Main battery mod 3 is what I've run. It's also what Wargaming recommends here, but your main battery reload time goes down by -12%, which is why you're seeing the 3.9, or it's 4 seconds, but technically it's 3.96 seconds, but they just rounded up to the half measure or whatever. But you do get a nerf on the main battery traverse speed by -13%. It is what it is, but I've not found that the 10.6 second 180 degree turn time has been lacking for me. It's been just comfortable for me as a whole. The second option, let me skip to Auxiliary Armaments Mod 2. This is an AA build. Utrecht is the new king of the tier 10 light cruisers in terms of AA power, dethroning Brisbane and Minotaur, if I recall correctly. It's a slightly stronger here on Utrecht. So you could go from full AA build. I'd probably only really be doing this if I'm playing with a div mate who is running, maybe he's playing a tier 10 CV or a super CV, or they're playing hybrids to kind of guarantee that you'll see CVs in the game. Otherwise, main battery mod 3 is where it's at because you don't always get CVs in the game. Granted, the AA will help you with like Dutch airstrikes since those are becoming more and more numerous in the game. But, usually the strikes tend to always get off unless you're like a tier 10 shooting a tier 8 Dutch airstrike, because the planes tend to be a bit weaker. The gunfire control system mod 2, this extends your main battery firing range by plus 16%. I see no reason whatsoever to take this on Utrecht, because as I've said, this ship is a mid-range cruiser. It's meant to play around your 14-kilometer airstrike, and they reload so fast, only 30.6 seconds with this build. So you want to be able to spam those off as much as possible when you're able to. It doesn't mean you suicide to get these off, but when opportunities arise, you can play smokes, you can play islands. The ship is really deadly. If you division up with people with a smoke screen destroyer like a Gearing or something like that, Yu Yang or whatever. So it's meant to play in the mid-range with the high swift airstrike. If you want to play this ship outside of the 17 kilometers as an example, I'd say why not just play Henri, Cerberus, San Luis, Hindenburg, like Yoshino, Azuma, what's the other one? The tier 10 Japanese light cruiser. I'm spacing it right now. But play one of those. That would just be better overall and more effective in landing shots. So like Hindenburg and Cerberus, I kind of jumped to those two at first off the top of my head if you're wanting to play more of a range build on a cruiser. And Zal. Zal's notable mention there as well. In terms of armament, what makes this ship filthy between the airstrikes and the fire chances and that, it's the fact that these 128mm guns pin 32 millimeters. That means you pin a lot of the high tier cruisers and battleships in the game, where it's not normal for 128mm guns to pin 32mm. So that means it's not just setting fires. Like, you could be setting fires, but you're also actually penetrating like a lot of battleships. Like I'm looking at was it Republic as an example. I'm gonna just pull it up here. I want to make sure I say this right. Where like Republic is coated in 32mm deck and side plating, right? So you're gonna pin everywhere except if you hit the main battery turrets and things like that. So it's quite obscene, if you will, the fact that you can pin 32mm, which makes this ship really deadly in combination with that initial shell velocity, that 960 meters a second, that doesn't take very long for the shells to reach, and that we can build up our fire chance ultimately to 9.5% between the combat signals and the commander. And you're talking about 12 guns that each have a 9.5% chance of starting a fire that reload every 4 seconds. It's pretty filthy. And you can see the maximum damage isn't a lot. It's 1450, but the commander, the legendary commander, unique commander we're running, has some perk to help improve the damage of the high explosive shells. So 13th best high explosive DPM in the game. Armor piercing, 6th best armor piercing DPM in the game for tier 10 cruisers. So if you get broadside cruisers, battleships, you should be taking advantage, assuming that you're going to penetrate them, right? You should be firing their armor piercing. I think with the fuse arms, where you get not like just over pins, it's 21mm armor scheme. And then the nice thing too is like destroyers in the game that, let's say they have a 25mm side plating, your high explosive is still going to pin them regardless of their angle. Or if you want to switch to armor piercing on the broadside, you can do that here as well. Maximum damage 3,100. High explosive bomb airstrike. So paired with the high explosive shells, these pin 34mm. So you have a 32mm and a 34mm combination of penetration. So basically it's more like your heavier ships like Libertad, Kremlin, with that like a stronger deck plating where you're not going to be able to penetrate with these bombs, but you're still doing a high chances of causing fire on a target, 35%, paired with what will ultimately be a 9.5%. So you're working out arsonists, you're working out witherers, typically with Utrecht. So again, reload time at 30.6 seconds, available flights 2. We can get that up to 3 with this commander. You have 7 aircraft in attacking flight that each drop 5 bombs. So that means you're dropping 35 bombs in the small square. Aircraft HP 2,768 because of a commander perk. Maximum range 14 kilometers. Maximum bomb damage 5,800. And again, we pin 34mm. Depth charges 5,750. Number of charges 2. Bombs in a charge 6. Reload time 40 seconds. So with the airstrike mod, we're also improving the depth charge damage by plus 15%. If you're kind of confused, where does that come from? So again, 12 bombs total between if you used both charges back to back. Consumable wise, we have a standard damage control party, 5-second action time, cooldown time 60 seconds, unlimited number of charges. And I say it's a standard damage control party in terms of like the cruisers in the game. Nothing super fancy about the repair party outside of the fact that it has a short cooldown time. But first, HP per second 221. With India Delta, we can bump that up to 200 and I think it's 66. 28-second action time, cooldown time 40 seconds. So if you watched a clip from Friday, I had both a Groningen and a Black, and then a Genon kind of came late to the party, ganging up on me. And the fact that I was able to get the heals off so fast back to back is ultimately what kept me alive in that scenario. So that was a really great way to kind of highlight the potency of Utrecht in that kind of scenario versus like, if I was in a situation with like a heavy cruiser or battleship that would have just like eaten me for breakfast, probably, right? But you do get 4 of these with Superintendent. Engine boost, as we talked about with the engine boost modification in the second slot of upgrades, we go from 120 second to 156 second consumable action time. There's an 8% engine boost. Cooldown time 120 seconds, number of consumables 4. I think if Wargaming had made this and a 15% or 20% engine boost, the ship would have been too strong just because of the fact that they're giving you insanely good guns that penetrate 32mm and have really good shell travel velocity. So like, it wouldn't have been right for them to give you a more powerful engine boost, even though I would have liked that, but it would have made the ship even much stronger and more difficult and more cancerous to try to kill. Signal-wise, we'll take Hotel Yankee. Damage caused when ramming an enemy, plus 50%. Damage received when ramming an enemy, negative 20%. We're going to take November Foxtrot. This is going to reduce our cooldown time of our consumables by 5%. So 120 to 114, 40 to 38, 60 to 57. We're going to take the November Echo Set 7 to improve our continuous damage and damage from AA shell explosions. So you see 95, 527, 1610, 96, 554, 1691. Our commander, I'll talk about him first and his talents and enhanced skills before I talk about 3 possible builds that come to my mind. Conrad Helfrich. He comes from the finest hour collection in the game. So if I go to profile on collections, I think it's this one. Right now, at this point in time, I don't think the containers are available to buy. So if you're watching this in the future, there might be like a purchase containers here kind of option. And this is where you get the reward for this 10-point commander. So then you have to work them up naturally. But it was during the Dutch cruiser event. It was either get the commander or go for a premium ship that you could get basically for free with the tokens. And I spent the tokens on the Finest Hour collection containers because I really wanted this commander, because he's just really, really good, which you're about to see why. He's 3 talents. The first is Battle Fervor. He has a activates upon earning the Witherer achievement, which isn't too difficult to do with this boat, where you get a main battery reload time reduced by -10% and an airstrike armament reload time by -15%. So that means your artillery, 4 seconds, is going to drop down to 3.6 seconds. Airstrike is going to drop down from 30.6 seconds to, let's say, 26 something seconds. So that's pretty potent if you're able to pick up the Witherer achievement. And then we also have Ship a Day. This activates each time you deal 50,000 damage to enemy ships up to 3 times per battle. Basically meaning 50,000, 100,000, 150,000 damage will increase our main battery damage for all intents and purposes by 2%, squadron bomb damage 2%, airstrike bomb damage 2%. So essentially a maximum of almost 6% if you manage to reach 150,000 damage. So that means even if you're running this commander like in co-op or operations, you'll still get this talent activated. Pugnopolpatria. This activates once per battle after 50 successful bomb hits scored on enemy ships. You get an additional airstrike flight. So we go from 2 attack flights to 3. So what this means is, because you have that faster, that 30.6 second reload time on these guys, is you're trying to drop battleships or stationary targets early in the game to activate this talent. So that's kind of why, another reason why on the Friday highlight video, as I called this ship a bit cancerous, because people will focus you down. Because of people play World of Warships to have, surface naval engagements. They don't play it to get, dropped again and again and again and again by an Utrecht or a Tromp, as an example. They don't play it where there's armor-piercing skip bombers wipe you from the sky, or do 70, or sorry, from a Shinano. They don't play, so you're in a Libertad and a tier 10 CV at a Richthofen yoinks your Libertad for 10,000 or 20,000 hit points, and you can only heal back 1,000 of it, right? So basically, if this is a bit of a griefer ship, so people will focus you, and I'll talk a little bit more about that with the build. So in terms of the build I'm going for, I have a bias here that I want to run this commander also on my Prins van Oranje. And this is the same build that I want to have synergy with. So there's one critique I would give myself here, is that you have a 4-second reload time on the main battery. Gun feeder is a bit redundant. So if I was going more for a Utrecht focused build, I'd probably just take Last Stand, because again, it's not if, it's when your engine and steering gears will become incapacitated. Otherwise, there's another skill we could talk about. We have to shuffle some things around here. So this is a more appropriate Utrecht build, but I like the gun feeder because of also running this commander on Prins van Oranje. Like, I've had a different Dutch commander on my Prins van Oranje with gun feeder. And so now that I have this commander, I'm trying to train him up to a 21-point build. Ultimately, I want to run it like this. So let me talk through this build, and then I'll talk about the other other two builds that one could possibly run, and highlighting the A Defense and ASW Expert. So with this build, let me talk through. Grease the gears, plus 15% on your main battery traverse speed. So that's the 10.6 seconds you see on the 108 return time. You have this skill, which would be reducing our main battery shell type switching time by -40%. So then it's like, you can see with the skill selected, it's basically 2.4 seconds. So basically, let's say you fired armor piercing salvo and you would switch back to high explosive, like, you won't take any nerf basically if you do it within that 1.6 second window, assuming adrenaline rush and other factors aren't taken into account here. And then with the Demolition Expert, this is a plus 1.5%. Normal is 1%, I believe. And then also explosion rate of cell munitions except for depth charges when attacking submarines plus 15%. So it means you can deal with submarines a bit better. So then you see that 9.5% chance on starting fires on a target. Yes. Priority target, I played my first game in Utrecht without priority target, and it was a mistake. There was a Des Moines sitting on an island. That's when I really realized how really cancerous the ship is, and I kept dropping him again and again. And he basically went out of his way to kill me, even though he died killing me. He threw his ship away to kill me, basically, because I annoyed him so badly. And I understand, again, the ship is a bit cancerous in that regard. So most commanders will be wanting to run priority target, or at least the incoming fire alert, the 1-point skill here. So I need it myself. The challenge is like you don't have armor. So you really need to know if someone's aiming at you or not to make a skill decision in terms of maneuvering and this, that, and the other. Focus fire training, pretty much mandatory to take here on Utrecht. The damage caused with the priority sector activated plus 1.5%. Priority sector reinforcement for AA plus 25%. So that's why you see you see 75% here versus where it normally just be 50%. Airstrike armament reload time, negative 15%. Number of shells explosions in the AA salvos goes from 5 to 6, as in there. And then also negative 10% on aircraft preparation time. But that's not here, it's more for the airstrike armament reload time, the negative 15%, giving us ultimately that 30.6 second reload time. Then an adrenaline rush, as you lose hit points, right, your ship becomes more dangerous. You have a faster reload time on your main battery, faster airstrike armament reload time, and a bit of a buff to your continuous AA damage, assuming maybe you've not lost AA guns. So you can turn that 4-second reload time into a, let's say, 3.9, 3.8, 3.7. Your airstrike, you'll go from a 30.6 to a 29 to a 28 to a 27. So that's good. And so the Adrenaline Rush has good synergy with the Battle Fervor if you're able to activate the Witherer achievement. So these work together quite well. Superintendent, you'll go through your heals really fast, your repair parties, because of having that 40-second cooldown time. So you take this skill for the heal. And then you also, of course, get the 4th engine boost. Survivability Expert, plus 450, so that gives us a nice overall 44,350 hit points. And Concealment Expert, dropping our concealment range down by negative 10%, where we are 9.8 by sea and 6 kilometer by air. If I was, let's say you only have a 10-point build, where would I throw the first 10 points? I would say do Grease the Gears, Priority Target, Adrenaline Rush, and then Concealment Expert. After that, I'd probably go the route of go ahead and get Focus Fire Training. Go ahead and get faster reload time on the airstrikes. So it's a 12-point build. Then do 15-point build, Superintendent. 18-point build, Survivability Expert. And then you can make the decision here if you want to do 19 here or 19, 20, and then the 21-point here. As I said, Last Stand might be more suitable for those of you with a focused Utrecht commander build because it's kind of redundant. Perhaps it's not necessary to have the gun feeder here skill mastered on Utrecht since you have a 4-second reload time already. So you might feel more comfortable with Last Stand. Otherwise, if you want to go for the AA skill, this improves your depth charge damage by plus 15%, continuous AA damage plus 25%, massive. Damage from AA shell explosions, plus 25%, massive. And your ship consumable preparation reload time is reduced by negative 50% whenever your AA is active. So that's CVs, fighters, spotters, ASW planes, Dutch airstrikes. So there's a lot of things that can activate this skill now compared to, let's say, 2 years ago. So if you want to take this skill, probably what I would say is you want to take incoming fire alert and then drop your priority target skill. And then you'll have the additional 2 points to get you the ASW or A defense and ASW expert. Basically, that just means you're foregoing having Demolition Expert, but you do have incoming fire alert to make it for priority target when a salvo of a distance of 4.5 kilometers or greater is fired at your ship. You get this little incoming fire alert icon. So if you want that skill, that's probably the way I would go in giving up priority target. It'd be hard, like let's say you decide that you would rather give up a 3-point skill. You know, because of how the consumable automatically activates that your consumables come off cooldown faster, you know, you kind of really want the Superintendent for that 4th heal, 4th engine boost. You kind of really want that survivability expert because your ship is so fragile, right? But I know some people who don't like Adrenaline Rush. So it's possible you could just give up one of these 3-point skills to take a Defense and ASW expert if you really want to be able to have priority target. I would really argue to keep Adrenaline Rush because of the synergy. If you are able to pick up Wither achievements, if it's too difficult, then then go ahead and give up Adrenaline Rush. Otherwise, you're probably talking about giving up one of these two, which is a really tough decision to make. But this is my build for Utrecht, but more focused Utrecht build probably be that one. So that being said, it's going to wrap the video up and bring it to a close. If you liked today's video, give it a thumbs up. If you didn't, give a thumbs down. Subscribe if you want to see more. If you're subscribed, thanks so much. I appreciate it. Thank you to my Patreon supporters. Until next time, take care.